Hi, Avinash.
Good evening, sir.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello. We'll just wait for the confirmation from the NPTEL side and then we'll begin.
Yes, no issues.
Thank you. Karthik from NPTEL, hi. Are you there? NPTEL team, could I please get a confirmation so that we can begin the live session? NPTEL team, could we please get a confirmation? Okay. In the meantime, I think we would be getting confirmation from the NPTEL side. Hello and welcome and good evening to everyone, and welcome to the third live session for the course of Constitutional Law and Public Administration in India. I warmly welcome you to this course and the third live session. So today's discussion we would be holding on the aspect of public policy for energy law in India. Thank you, NPTEL team, for the confirmation. Could one of you kindly confirm if my screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Great. Excellent. So how does the energy landscape in India look like? This would be our major discussion today. So friends, India's energy landscape features a growing mix of fossil fuels and renewable energy sources. And the same is driven by a very strong commitment to adopting renewables and achieving the 50% of electricity from non-fossil fuels by 2030. While coal in India still continues to be a significant energy source, renewable sources such as solar and wind are rapidly expanding their share. In today's lecture, we would be delving into the aspect as to how would we be seeing the public policy structure in the energy law division of India. How are we mixing the various fossil fuels, non-renewable and renewable energy? So let's have a more detailed look into how and how much dominance of fossil fuels we have, and then we would take it further, looking into the constitutional aspect. So dominance of fossil fuels in the energy sector in India. So coal happens to be the largest single fuel in India's energy mix, which is playing a very critical role in the continuous supply of electricity generation and industry supplies as well. The second is oil consumption and imports are also increasing due to rising vehicle ownership and road transport. The third aspect is India relies heavily on fossil fuels, making it quite vulnerable to price fluctuations in the global market. And then in the past decade, we have also seen the rise of renewable energy in India. And India has made significant strides in renewable energy with solar and wind power leading the way. The country has set up a magnanimous target of 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel-based energy by 2030. That's just another half a decade from today. Renewable energy capacity additions have been substantial, with solar and wind power witnessing rapid growth. Third, government policies and robust project uptake have fueled the growth for solar energy sector. And India is also focusing on bioenergy, utilizing agriculture waste and other organic materials for power generation. Now, how are we looking at the energy diversification and future trends? So, as I started my lecture with the point that India is diversifying its energy basket by investing in renewable energy, biofuels, and natural gas. An example of the same can be when we go to petrol bunks these days, there are cars that are coming or petrol bunks that have ethanol mixed in them. And there are cars that are coming with a blend in ethanol. So to ensure that the petroleum is there 80% and ethanol is there 20% mix. And the same, the government has also said that by 2040, they might increase it by 40%. So what would happen to the existing cars that are running purely on petrol and diesel? This is something that the policy would determine in the years to come. So the government is promoting natural gas as a cleaner alternative fuel to fossil fuels and is increasing its share in the energy mix. The adoption of electric vehicles and development of energy storage technologies are also transforming the energy landscape in India. And India is also focusing on improving energy efficiency and reducing energy consumption through various initiatives. The aspect of green hydrogen is also gaining great prominence as a potential clean energy source, with government initiatives supporting its production and use. But before we move further to the constitutional aspect, are there any challenges and opportunities? What do you think, friends? Could we please use the chat box and give a couple of thoughts, or if you would want to unmute and share a few thoughts, that what are the challenges in this energy mix that is there in India, and how are we looking forward to solve the same? So while you type your responses in the chat box, now one aspect is, despite the growth of renewable energy in India, India's energy consumption is projected to continue growing, putting pressure on the energy infrastructure, because it is not an unknown fact that our population is also increasing. And with the increase of population, so will our reliance on energy sector will also increase. The consumption will also increase. Second, the transition to sustainable energy future requires significant investment and technological innovation. And India must focus on reducing emissions in its hard-to-abate sectors like power, steel, refining, and petroleum to achieve the net zero target that we have set for ourselves by 2070. Environmental issues affecting fundamental rights, excellent. We would be seeing the same in the next couple of minutes as well. And the fourth aspect, which is very critical in this domain, is there are significant opportunities for investment and innovation in the renewable energy sector, including solar, wind, hydrogen, green hydrogen, and electric vehicles. Yes, Mr. Prati, did you want to add something?
Jay,
Okay.
are you moving the slides?
I will be moving
Okay.
in the next one.
This is the first slide?
Yes. So one of the initial aspects that we must consider and look is to how do we shift major energy consumption sectors like power and steel to a more cleaner fuel or to a more cleaner alternative. So in essence, India's energy landscape is undergoing significant trends and significant changes as we speak today, which is also playing an increasingly important role in meeting the country's growing energy demand and reducing its reliance on fossil fuels. So how is the public's policy spanning out, and how does the constitutional framework look in this particular aspect? Subsidy to vehicles to modify engines for using blended petrol. Excellent. These are a few incentives that the government is providing in order for citizens to change to a better and cleaner alternative. But whether the green technologies that we are discussing now, whether it is a cleaner fuel or not, we may analyze towards the end of the lecture. So coming to the constitutional dimension, friends. Now, electricity, as we know in India, is a constitutional matter. And specifically, it's a subject in the concurrent list. This means that the central and the state governments have the power to legislate on this particular aspect. Now, electricity, since it's there in the concurrent list, is listed as entry 38 in list 3 of the 7th schedule of the Constitution. Now, just for the benefit of everyone out here and also for clarification, what is the concurrent list or what is the concurrent subject? The Constitution's 7th schedule categorically divides legislative powers between the union and state governments. Now, the concurrent list allows both the union and state governments to make laws on subjects listed there, including electricity. And in India, electricity is governed or is taken care of by the Ministry of Power. And the Ministry of Power is responsible for the development of electrical energy and power generation. We also have the Central Electricity Authority. Now, this particular authority is a body that is established under the Electricity Act of 2003 to carry out specific electricity-related functions. Now, Article 287, another critical article of the Constitution. This article prohibits states from imposing taxes on the consumption or sale of electricity by the union government and union railways with certain exceptions. Lastly, coming to Article 288, this article exempts certain taxes on water and electricity generated by authorities regulating interstate rivers. Now, coming to the second aspect of it, which is entry 53 from the state list, that is list 2 of the Indian Constitution, that authorizes the state government to levy taxes on the consumption or sale of electricity within their jurisdiction. And this power does not extend to taxing the generation of electricity or interstate supply of electricity. What is the meaning of the same? In simple terms, this entry specifically grants state authorities to tax electricity consumption and sale within their territorial borders. Now, is there a tax on generation of electricity? Well, no. States cannot impose taxes or duties on the generation of electricity. This is because electricity generated in one state may be consumed in others as well, and the Constitution prohibits states from taxing residents of other states. Now, how does it look under the purview of the GST law? While the goods and services tax exempts the supply of electrical energy, including transmission and distribution, under specific notifications. This means that states cannot levy GST on electricity. An example would be Karnataka itself. The Karnataka Electricity Taxation on Consumption or Sale Act 1959 outlines the tax structure for electricity consumption in the state. The Karnataka government can levy tax on captive consumption and auxiliary consumption in power generating stations, but not the other way around. So what are the key points, the key takeaways that we have from this particular slide? States have the power to tax electricity consumption and sale within their particular state jurisdiction. States cannot tax electricity generation or interstate supply in case there is a need for any other state to get electricity. And third, electricity is considered goods under the GST, but is exempt from the GST. Now, the constitutional framework. Friends, let me ask you a question at this point in time. How does the constitutional framework for electricity look in our country? What do you think? Do we have certain rights associated with electricity or energy per se? Is there a particular right that as individuals we have towards energy or towards electricity in India? Please feel free to use the chat box or unmute and convey your thoughts. That would be highly appreciated. What do you think, friends? Do we have any proper constitutional framework? I just gave you a background of the constitutional framework that we have for electricity in India. So what do you think? Do individuals have rights for electricity? in India? What do you think, friends? Feel free to use the chat box, intervene. In case you would want to add a point at this particular time, feel free to add a point as well. Well, uh, okay. So, okay, there is a response. Article 21, right to life, Avinash. Excellent. Yes, I was beginning with Article 21 itself. Article 21, which is right to life. The text of the article says that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. And it is a common fact today, and it is widely known that the judiciary has expanded Article 21 to various dimensions. For instance, right to clean environment in Subhash Kumar versus State of Bihar, 1991. Right to livelihood, the famous case of Olga Tellis versus Bombay Municipal Corporation, 1985. Right to shelter, health, education, and dignity. Article 21 today encompasses all of these rights within it. Excellent, Harshit. There is the Electricity Act as well that is giving a constitutional purview and a background to the electricity regulation in the country. Now, it's in Article 21. Before we get into Article 14, let's see what the directive principles of state policy that is enshrined in Part 4 have to say. Article 39B, distribution of material resources to subserve the common good for the individuals in the country. Article 47, duty of the state to raise the level of nutrition and standard of living. So in the purview of standard of living, electricity also plays a critical role. And though these are not enforceable, these are guiding principles or interpretation of fundamental rights for the court to timely assess when and if they get cases in the same regard. And of course, Article 14, the denial of electricity to certain group or region may violate the electricity before law. So coming to this aspect, friends, which is quite critical, energy in India. How does the energy landscape look in India, and what are the judicial trends, or how have the courts enumerated various judicial pronouncements to ensure that citizens have a right to electricity? What kind of right? I will ask you once I finish a part of this slide. So what are the landmark cases that we have in this particular regard? I'll begin with a 2006 judgment in Ramakrishna Mandal versus State of Bihar, where the issue in the case was electricity was being denied in a remote tribal area in Bihar. Why was it being denied? Because to carry the transmission lines to that place was slightly difficult. Now, the court held that electricity is a basic necessity and the state has a duty to provide it equitably. And the observation made was denial of electricity can amount to violation of Article 21 and Article 14. So, friends, now that we are seeing that the courts are interpreting cases to ensure that every nook and corner and even the last mile in our country gets an electricity supply, what do you think will be the public policy when we are shifting to cleaner fuels? When we talk about EV vehicles, so when EV vehicles are being used in cities, in metropolitan cities, can we expect EV vehicles to reach the last mile or the last corner of our countries? These are some points that in public policy of energy law and dimension in India that we need to analyze. Next case, which is quite a landmark judgment. It's a 1996 judgment, Chameli Singh versus State of UP, wherein right to shelter included the aspect of electricity and clean sanitation and clean drinking water. This case also stated in the year 1996 that electricity is an integral part to a decent life. Thus, it is a part of Article 21. Next, Consumer Education and Research Center versus Union of India. This case also held that right to health is a part of right to life and energy. Mark my words, friends, they didn't use the word electricity. They used the term energy is essential for running hospitals and health centers. Next, Paschim Banga Khet Mazdoor Sanity versus State of West Bengal. Now, all of these cases, somewhere or the other, have played critical role because this case ensured that it is the state's obligation to provide basic infrastructure for medical care. Because you don't only need electricity to run houses, but you need electricity to also run a lot of amenities that needs to be provided to every last mile corner of the country. So energy, in this case, they held is as basic infrastructure that could fall within the similar reasoning and purview of Article 21 and Article 14. The fifth case law, M.K. Balakrishnan versus Union of India. It's a 2009 judgment. Gayatri ma'am, can I request you to write these judgments in the chat box? The first one was R. Ramakrishna Mandal versus State of Bihar. Even I will put it in the chat box. The second case law that I mentioned was Chameli Singh versus State of UP. The third case that I mentioned was Consumer Education and Research Center versus Union of India. This I will put it in the chat box. The fourth case, ma'am, you can mention it in the chat box, was Paschim Banga Khet Mazdoor Sanity versus State of West Bengal. And the fifth was M.K. Balakrishnan versus Union of India. This is quite a recent judgment. It's a 2009 judgment by the Supreme Court. This case emphasized the environmental aspects of development, emphasizing sustainability, opening the possibility of a balanced right to energy with ecological justice. And the last case that I mentioned today is Environment and Consumer Protection Foundation versus Union of India, which is a 2012 judgment. Environment and Consumer Protection Foundation versus Union of India. In this case, the court directed the state to ensure electricity in all schools and Anganwadis. And it also went on and said that education cannot be meaningful without electricity because it is an integral part to Article 21. So my question to all of you friends right now is, does right to electricity or right to energy is a fundamental right as per the Indian Constitution? What do you think, friends? Right to energy, is it a fundamental right? Or right to electricity, whether this is a fundamental right? Friends, what do you think? Now that we have seen not explicitly under Article 21, okay, great interpretation, Harshit. Anyone else? So, Harshit, do we consider that this is at least a extended fundamental right under the purview of Article 21? Will we be correct to say this? Mr. Radhakrishnan, Article 21 is exhaustive and right to live also consists of the right to energy. Excellent. Yes, friends. Absolutely. So the judgments that we just saw, and even the court has held it in various aspects. And I will just take up one particular case out here, which is, I think it's a judgment from the Punjab and Haryana High Court. The case law somewhere relates to this. The name of the case is Om Prakash versus Balkar Singh 2022. I'll put this in the chat box for whoever is interested. You can read this particular judgment. Now, in this particular case, the Punjab and Haryana High Court. So all the cases are mentioned here. Sorry, sorry, ma'am, for that. Okay, so all the cases are mentioned here. So in this particular case, which is quite interesting, friends, the Punjab and Haryana High Court, while they were deciding the revision petition, the bench of the judges held that electricity being a basic necessity is an integral part of life under Article 21 that we just saw. So the court directed the respondents to restore electricity connection of a suit property wherein the petitioner till the final disposal of the suit. In this case, what had happened was the resident had overstayed and was not paying rent to the owner. So the court noted that electricity is a basic necessity and is an integral part of the right to life as enshrined under Article 21 of the Constitution of India. Therefore, as long as the petitioner is in possession even of the disputed property, he cannot be deprived of electricity. Though the court also held, the court allowed the petition and directed that electricity connection of the sued property may be restored immediately, but subject to payment of the requisite charges by the petitioner, and also with regards to the possession of the property, the court held that that case will subsequently run in the appropriate forums. So the point being, friends, that is critical out here is our energy sector has been governed or has been in some way supported by the judiciary in various means. They have ensured that electricity becomes a fundamental right to individuals. Now, coming to this aspect, friends, there is something called as the Electricity Rights of Consumers Rules 2020 that gives consumers the right to minimum electricity supply, timely connection, and there is a grievance redressal forum as well. Now, there is the amended rules of 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. Also, in case someone is not able to pay the price for electricity supply, has the government done anything in that particular regard? Yes, they have. There is a Saubhagya scheme of 2017 that ensures that there is a universal household electrification. So energy access has become a precondition for digital governance, education, and health. Because in one of the case laws, we also saw in the Environment and Consumer Protection Foundation versus Union of India that it is imperative that even government schools and Anganwadis have a timely electricity supply, a timely connection, and in case there are any grievances, there are proper grievance redressal mechanisms. So the government of India has approved various amendments in this regard for the rights of consumers. Now, these amendments, the Union Minister for Power and Non-Renewable Energy, they have also stated that this is to ensure the timeline for getting new electricity connection even till the farthest end of the country is simplified. And in case transmission lines cannot reach there, the setting up of solar rooftop installation is done. So today, when we go to remote villages, we will see that near the panchayat office or near certain government schools, there is let's say an electricity pole that is run by solar. There are tanks or common tanks that are run by solar that is working as a common tank for people. So facilitating easier and faster installation of rooftop solar systems has been one of the things that the government is ensuring to ensure that electricity reaches till the last mile. Separate connections for electric vehicle charging stations. Now, consumers can now obtain separate electricity connections for charging their EVs. So the government is not only ensuring the production of EVs increase, but also the power that fuels EVs also increase. And all of these is with the aspect of the country achieving its goal of reducing the carbon emission and reaching net zero by the year 2070. So new connections and change in existing connections to be obtained faster. So the government is also ensuring that all of these are done at a quicker and faster rates. So these are a few things that we see and how the energy aspect in our country is moving from one way or the other. Now, in case anyone has any questions at this point in time, please feel free to intervene, or in case you have any doubts or anything to contribute, please feel free to either put it in the chat box or ask us.
Okay, I will just want to make one point here.
Yes, ma'am.
Jay, so you were talking about right to energy and right to electricity. So I think there's a necessity to make a differentiation between right to energy and right to electricity. Right to energy is a broader aspect, and it is more related to environment and resources obtained in a country. Now, right to electricity is more of a consumer oriented, because at the end of the day, the who is the consumer? The electricity is the consumer aspect, and directly you cannot get into this kind of right to energy would be like a basic right. Whether it is enforceable or not enforceable is a question of fact. But as a matter of law, the right to electricity is an enforceable aspect. So when we make this differentiation, it would be kind of the consumer oriented aspects take a primary position in the right to electricity. So that has more of a right to life aspect, because right to energy, the energy resources are distributed in a varied way in different parts of the country. For example, solar energy is a seasonal, wind energy is depends on the geography of the place, and hydroelectric power stations, of course, not all dams can have hydroelectric stations. So only multi-purpose project dams can have hydroelectric stations, or any dams which is specified for hydroelectricity can have it. So from the journey from energy to electricity, there is a lot of nuances which takes place. But I certainly feel right to electricity is more consumer oriented and enforceable. Right to energy is a basic form of right.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you for that intervention. Now that, friends, ma'am has brought this intervention about right to energy versus right to electricity, let's refine it and narrow it down even further. She's rightly said that right to electricity is a more consumer-oriented aspect. Now, friends, is there a difference between right to electricity and right to access to electricity? That is also an extended part of Article 21 under the aspect of fundamental rights. So there is an aspect of right to access to electricity, which is an even more consumer oriented, ensuring that there is a last mile reach of electricity in our country. And therefore, the government has come up with certain nuances, so many policies that is ensuring electrification till the last mile. In case they're not able to provide transmission lines, as we discussed, they're providing solar or wind as per the topography of that particular area. So we need to understand the distinction between right to energy, which is a broader term, right to electricity, again, narrowing it down, and right to access to electricity, which is an extended part of fundamental right, friends. Now, moving further, what are the key legislations in this particular area? So let's see this from a conventional point of view and a non-conventional point of view. So we would be seeing this as to which are the basic aspects and which are the basic nuances and ministries that are actually looking into this particular aspect. So friends, coal in India, as we know it, is being governed by the Ministry of Coal. There are certain key bodies that the Ministry of Coal holds, which is Coal India Limited, Central Mine Planning and Design Institute, that is the overpowering or the overarching ministry and the institution that is looking into how much coal is to be extracted, how much is to be imported and exported. It is looking into all these aspects. The issues. Yes, Harshit, you have a point? Can you please upload all the lecture notes, class PPTs in portal? It would be easy to revise. I've watched all the lectures, but for revision. Sure, we would certainly look into the same. We'll ask the NPTEL team to do the same. Thanks, Harshit. Okay. Now, moving on with the aspect. You're welcome. Good luck for the exams. Now, moving on with the aspect of environmental degradation, land acquisition, and labor rights that are involved while mining coal. So it is the Ministry of Coal that is looking into all of these aspects. So this sector is entirely governed by the Ministry of Coal. Next, we have petroleum and natural gas. The governing ministry is the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. Who are the key players out here? ONGC, Indian Oil Corporation, BPCL, Reliance, the big boy Shells in Assam. So all of these, they are the major players in the petroleum and natural gas sector. The regulation being the Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Body that is looking into the extraction of these gases and fossil fuels. The legal side of it is the Oil Fields Regulation and Development Act of 1948. Then electricity, we have just seen, it's the Ministry of Power. The key institutions are NPTC, PG, CIL, Rural Electrification Corporation, REC, and the regulatory commissions are Central Electricity Regulatory Commission and State Electricity Regulatory Commission. Is there a policy push? Yes. There are aspects like the Saubhagya scheme that came up in 2017 for rural electrification, RDSS, Uday scheme. So all of these are the important aspects in this particular realm. Next, nuclear energy. The governing ministry is the Department of Atomic Energy, that is also seen by the Prime Minister's office. The legal side of it is the Atomic Energy Act of 1962. The important institutions are BARC, BARC, NPCIL. What are the key concerns? Safety, liability, civil liability for Nuclear Damage Act 2010 that has been in opposition as well. Then we have hydropower. Now, how does the aspect of hydropower look in our country? We will come to it a little later. But before that, let's look into the renewable sector as well. Solar is being governed by the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, MNRE. The key schemes are solar park scheme, rooftop solar schemes for individual houses. And of course, we have the National Solar Mission that was launched by the Prime Minister under the National Action Plan on Climate Change. For wind, you have, again, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, and issues are land use, offshore wind potential, all of these aspects. Then bioenergy, that are the aspects of it. Now, coming back to the last point that I left was with regards to hydropower. Friends, in India, as we know for a fact that there are a lot of ministries that are governing all of these aspects. So the Ministry of Hydropower is also divided as per the megawatt that it is producing. So as per that, the dams are being divided. Now, coming back to the key features of the Electricity Act, friends, and the legal framework of the Electricity Act. So the major purpose of the Electricity Act has been to consolidate laws of electricity relating to generation, transmission, distribution, and trading of electricity. We have very few private players out here. It is also creating a very conducive environment for development of the electricity framework, the grids in various parts of the country, and of course, regulating and seeing that there is a healthy competition. And then we have the central and state regulatory commissions that are there to rationalize electricity tariffs. So friends, all of these are the aspects of the Electricity Act, which is quite critical, especially from the point of view of right to access to electricity and right to electricity. Now, the key features that we just saw is with regards to transmission and distribution systems, delicensing of power generation, corporatization of electricity boards into PSUs, trading in electricity permitted, and the rest, you can just go through it. Now, having this context in mind, do any one of you have any aspect that you would want to share at this point in time? And how does the aspect of energy security look for a country like India, especially from a public policy point of view, and why is it so very important? Okay, this particular map, friends, that we see on our screens is certain strategic petroleum reserves that is boosting the country's energy security. Now, why is it essential to boost a country's energy security, friends? It is to ensure that in case there is a warlike situation, something that has been going on in Russia and Ukraine, it's been almost 2.5 years to 3 years now. So how will we ensure that there is a certain amount of energy security in various aspects? Because electricity, friends, as we saw, is one aspect of it. Energy being the broader parameter and the broader purview of it. How does the panoramic scenario looks like? So the government of India has strategically planned out various crude oil storages in phase 1 in 3 locations and in phase 2 in additional 2 locations. In phase 1, it is at Visakhapatnam, wherein there is a holding capacity of 1.33 megametric tons, Mangalore 1.5 MMT, Padur 2.5, and another 6.5 tons of strategic crude oil reserves is being planned in these two phases, that is Chandi Khol in Orissa and Padur in Karnataka. So in this manner, the government is also ensuring that a proper energy security is prevalent to almost every nook and corner of the India, so that even the Northeast is well secured for obvious reasons, till Jammu and Kashmir to far west, middle part of India, and of course, far south. So all of these are also critical, important steps that the government is strategically taking in order to ensure that there is a proper reserve of energy security in case there is any crisis. Now, this is one aspect of it. This is only the crude oil aspect. What about the aspect of nuclear power generation? There have been proper nuclear power plants in the country at various locations that are ensuring safety and also a cleaner form of power generation, which is also boosting India's energy capacity in one way or the other. Now, coming to this aspect, energy mix and the different energy sources, wherein we categorically and intricately analyze as to how is the electricity sector looking in India. So as of May 2024, friends, India's installed capacity from fossil fuels stands at 237 gigawatts. That's constituting about 56.8% of the total installed capacity, which is followed closely by renewable sources of energy, which is catching up, that comprises of wind, solar, waste to energy, and biomass constituting somewhere to about 40%, and taking the total installed capacity to 172.54%. Now, coming to India's ambitions that we just saw in the initial part of the lecture, I would just reiterate that by 2070 or by 2030, somewhere we are planning to achieve 500 gigawatts of installed capacity from non-fossil fuel sources that includes solely renewable sources of energy and nuclear power by 2030. By 2070, it's a completely green, cleaner fuels. And to honor its commitments under the Paris Climate Accord that India has signed. So when India ratified the Paris Climate Accord in 2016, it committed to reduce its emissions intensity to 35% below 2005 levels by 2030 and ensure 40% cumulative power capacity is sourced from non-fossil fuel-based energy sources by 2030. Are there challenges? Yes, there are numerous challenges, because the 40% that we are looking out here is something that is being consumed by the consumers. While there are the large industries that are still running the major show on proper fossil fuels, only a part of their maybe the official buildings wherein they have very few electrical appliances or the office work is going on is where the solar power installed capacity is being installed. So yes, there is a move in the right direction, but how do we ensure energy security and also balance it out in this particular aspect is something that we would be analyzing at the forefront. Now, subsequently, India has enhanced its commitment to reduce emissions by 45% below 2005, so that it can achieve 50% of its power from non-fossil fuel-based energy resources by 2030. Now, the MNRE, that is the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, Government of India, is aggressively working towards achieving these targets by 2030. And to this effect, there has been an increase of 128% in the country's installed renewable capacity energy since 2014. So now India ranks fourth globally in terms of renewable energy capacity. And with continued government support and investment opportunities in the right direction and supporting green investments towards green fuel or for green industries, it seems to be on a track to achieve its net zero carbon emission target by 2070. Now, coming to the second point that's there on the slide, what situation has undergone a change in the past 12 months that are likely to have an impact on the future direction or policy perspective in our country? So friends, in the past 12 months, the changes in India's energy landscape have been geared towards transition to green energy or cleaner fuels, mainly a push towards storage projects for renewable energy. Because, friends, we all know that producing renewable energy is one thing, but storing renewable energy is a more critical aspect wherein our research and development is being focused on. So emphasis on the development of green hydrogen hubs in India and offshore wind projects, and how can we store the same. So let's somehow discuss what are these recent changes that are taking place. First, green hydrogen. So a number of schemes and guidelines have been formulated by the government of India over the last year to achieve its aim of India becoming a global hub for the production of green hydrogen or ammonia. The green hydrogen story commenced on, I guess, the country's 75th Independence Day, somewhere in 2021, pursuant to the launch of the National Hydrogen Mission. So, friends, are we analyzing as to how the public policy is not only looking at the fossil fuel dimension, but also in the dimension of non-fossil fuels? So subsequent to this launch of the National Hydrogen Mission, the Ministry of Power, Government of India, issued the Green Hydrogen Policy in 2022, which was followed by the notification of the Green Hydrogen Mission in 2023 that acts as a primer for the development of green hydrogen ecosystem. So there are guidelines now for incentivizing the indigenous manufacture of electrolyzers to achieve a lower levelized cost of hydrogen production. That's in Scheme 1. Scheme 2 looks into maximizing production of green hydrogen and its derivatives in India and enhance the cost competitiveness of green hydrogen and its derivatives vis-a-vis fossil fuel-based alternatives. Now, apart from this, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy issued Green Hydrogen Standard for India. And this standard seeks to define the non-biogenic greenhouse gas emission standards for green hydrogen produced through electrolysis and biomass as 2 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent per kilogram of hydrogen. And earlier this year, the government has issued 2 separate guidelines for incentivizing the setting up of hydrogen hubs and manufacturing facilities in India. Now, while this has been a fair amount of discussion around the deployment of green hydrogen, the mandate requires for demand creation have still not been issued by the government. So yes, we know that there is certain direction in which the government is proceeding in one way or the other. Next, energy storage. We saw the form in which crude oil is being stored. Now, India has realized, given the global scenario, that in the last few years, it is quite imperative and critical for India to have an aggressive renewable energy targets that are to be achieved than setting up energy storage systems, which is the most critical part while we discuss public policy in the energy sector. Because it is a viable and intermittent nature of renewable sources that impacts a grid stability and maintaining uninterrupted power supply. So we also need to see that can a renewable energy sector ensure that a grid is supplied in an uninterrupted manner to one way or the other. But unfortunately, the parent legislation for electricity matters in India, that's the Electricity Act of 2003, does not as of now have any specific provision for procurement, appropriation, or regulation of ESS, that is energy storage systems. So this is something that the government can work. This is something that research and development can take place and designs as well. So to further the development of ESS, the regulatory regime for these projects was finally clarified in 2022, not in the legislation, but in other way. So pursuant to this, the energy storage systems is a part of the power system defined under Section 250 of the Electricity Act now. And the ESS can be utilized either on standalone basis or in complementary with generation, transmission, and distribution friends. And this is a further push to the deployment of ESS, and the Ministry of Power has now issued specific guidelines to promote the development of pumped storage projects, that is PSPs, and this is in line with India's aggressive clean energy targets storing as well as various energy storage models are imperative to provide grid stability. Because in case we want to be dependent on these particular aspects, we need to be sure that the same is being from the point of view of a grid stability. And that is when we would be in a position to say, yes, that renewable energy sources are now secure for the country's energy sector security, and it is stable. So the government in 2023 has also issued national framework for promoting energy storage systems with an objective of having 24/7 dispatchable renewable energy, that is renewable energy around the clock, and to support the development and deployment of ESS through policy and regulatory measures. So would questions from this session would be asked, or do we have to learn from the Electricity Act? So primarily what we take up in these sessions are an additional aspect for all of you, because what we deal in the course outline is something very nuanced. So we try to give you a very nuanced perspective of a new dimension. There can be a few MCQ questions that you can expect, nothing more than that, friends. So this is just to give you a new idea and maybe a new perspective into a new constitutional part that we did not deal with in the major outline of the course, and we might have just touched it as a part of the course. Okay, now the next part that is there in the slide is offshore wind energy. And how is India planning to mix this along with that? Because India has a very vast coastline. And the MNRE notified the National Offshore Wind Policy in the year 2015. However, this never came into effect till 2022, that MNRE issued the first strategy paper for establishing offshore wind energy projects, providing 3 models for the development of offshore wind farms, which are subsequently now getting amended in 2023. So these models are proposed on a large scale to ensure that there is a steady supply from the coastline, the vast coastline that India has, because it's not a myth that these coastlines have a lot of continuous supply of air. So this revised strategy that has been issued by MNRE provides a roadmap for achieving 30 gigawatt only by offshore wind energy targets by the year 2030. That's another next 5 years. Now, coming to the development of government policy, strategy, and approach, I think this is the last aspect I would touch on. Now, the first is with regards to the waiver of ISTS charges. So the government from time to time has granted waivers of ISTS charges for renewable energy projects. The current position of the waivers on ISTS charges and not transmission losses is for renewable energy generating stations, renewable hybrid generating stations, and pumped hydroelectric stations that declare a commercial operation date. Now, the other aspect that we must also focus on is on domestic manufacturing of solar modules and cells, because it is not an unknown fact that most of our solar panels is somewhere, at least as of now, is still being imported from various countries. So in the last few years, there has been a great push by the government with the intention of promoting local solar manufacturing units. And the government of India has been imposing safeguards, duties, custom duties, etc. on the import of solar modules from some specific jurisdictions. And to further regulate this aspect, the Ministry of New Renewable Energy issued the approved models and manufacturers of solar photovoltaic modules requirements for compulsory registration order in 2019, and pursuant to this order, a list of eligible models and manufacturers of solar photovoltaic cells and modules complying with the standard prescribed by the Bureau of Indian Standards was issued. And now, today, as we talk, we have an approved list of models and manufacturers. So all of these have been playing out into the benefit of the country in one way or the other. The only aspect that I would touch, and if there are any questions, I would take that up in the last 5 minutes, which is the product-linked incentive schemes in various aspects. So in the solar modules, we have seen that there has been an aim in promoting manufacturing of high-efficiency solar PV modules in India. And this is reducing import dependence in the renewable energy space. And the Ministry of New Renewable Energy has notified the first tranche of the production-linked incentive scheme for the national program on high-efficiency solar PV modules in 2021. The same is also being given for electrolysis, national single window system. Why is this important? So the government of India launched a digital platform, the National Single Window System, in September 2021 to help stakeholders apply to various departments under the central or state governments for approvals based on their business requirements. The platform hosts applications for approvals from a whopping 32 central departments and 29 state governments. So this national single window system has gained popularity amongst a lot of project developers over the last year or so. And there is also state incentives because several state governments, in addition to the government of India, have announced certain incentives for setting up renewable energy projects, and green hydrogen projects in their respective states, such as waiver or reduction on wheeling on transmission charges, on intrastate sale of power, electricity duty or cross-subsidy surcharges, or capital subsidy in one way or the other. Now, yes, there have been amendments to the legislation as well. The electricity rules of 2005 have been amended to ensure the definition of captive user. It has included the definition of captive consumption by a holding company, verification of captive status. So all of these have been important in the legislative framework as well. And then we have the electricity late payment surcharge and related matters rules now, which is ensuring that it aids the recovery of outstanding dues of generating companies, electricity trading licenses and transmission licenses payable by distribution licenses or other users of transmission systems, because there are many institutions and many sectors and also many, I would say, government institutions that do not pay their electricity bills on time. So the government is coming up with new and novised ways to ensure that there is a steady flow of energy in one way, so that the people who are engaged and the sectors or the investors and the companies that are involved in this particular sector are also well taken care of. So all of these are one way or the other to ensure a robust energy framework in the country. Lastly, we also have the electricity promoting renewable energy through Green Open Access Rules 2022. And of course, anyone who is interested to read, I can just share a few case laws in the group. Whoever is interested, you can read this particular judgment. It's a 1999 judgment, but the more recent judgment I would really appreciate if you would read is this judgment, that is M.K. Ranjit Singh and others versus Union of India. It's a 2019 judgment, and there is a recent order in this case as well, wherein how the Great Indian Bustard, it is also known as now the Great Indian Bustard case. So how are all of these ensuring that there is a steady supply of electricity in one way or the other? And how do we ensure a proper manner in one way or the other, so that we as a country are able to hold electricity and ensure a proper nuanced energy supply in one way or the other, for the benefit of the nation and also for the benefit of the targets that we have set for 2030, 2050, and 2070. So these were the constitutional dimension, how the courts have interpreted it, and what the government is doing in order to incentivize the same. So with this, friends, I think I conclude my lecture. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask. We would be more than happy to take the lecture.
Okay, Jay, can I just add 2 points to this? See, actually, energy security has a very established formula by the government. So it's energy security, which includes the word called energy self-sufficiency. So we are mostly dependent on the imports of fuel from other countries, the rich countries, fuel-rich countries. So, what are the important aspects of energy security? I will just mention in 2, 3 points. One is that we have energy self-sufficiency, and renewables are targeted to have a 50% mix in the overall energy because once we enter into renewable energies, the coal reserves can be used for a longer period of time, and then where our energy security on our own resources would be made accessible for a longer period of time. That's the first point. Second point, nuclear energy, of course, it is touted to be the most important clean energy, but nuclear energy has something called monopoly by the government. So it cannot alone meet the demand and supply. And the last one is when we are more into imports of coal and fuel and petroleum products. So our GDP is also based on we are spending so much on dollars. And then when we have more dollar reserves, when we have our own energy sufficiency, the dollar reserves are a healthy sign of a good economy. So these are the 4 points which I wanted to include in the aspect of energy security.
Thank you, ma'am, for those interventions. I will take up a few questions if there are any. Energy is in concurrent list. Why are we not seeing state making laws on electricity? So, Samrat, one of the points that why the state does not make laws on electricity is because it's in the concurrent list. The concurrent list, as we all know, somewhere is dominated by the central government. But in case there is a requirement, yes, states come up and they devise the taxation scheme. So that's the only aspect wherein they do their fair bit of the contribution. Friends, since this is our last live session, if there are any questions with regards to slide title energy mix was last, thereafter no movement. Any slide left? Avinash, that was the last slide that we had. So in case in case there is anything else that you would want to ask, that was generally the last slide in the slide deck. So yes.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay, apart from that, any other questions that we can take up from anyone? Okay, can we have all of you turn on your videos once so that we can take a quick picture since this is the last live session? I'll wait for a couple of seconds for everyone to turn on their videos. I understand we are at our homes and all of us maybe at a convenient place, but just for like 10 seconds or so, or like 1 minute, so that everyone comes in the video, we can have a nice quick picture. I'll wait for the rest as well. So I hope, friends, the course has been beneficial to all of you. You all have gained a lot of insights from Professor Sairam's lectures and the entire CERA team's contribution. And we wish you all the very best for the exams that are there. So anyone else will be turning on their videos? Could I please request all of you to be slightly quicker because there is another live session of the advanced contracts that we need to go and begin. My colleague, Gayatri Girish, has already started that.
Sir,
Yes.
rather their live sessions are very, very informative and interesting, which
Thank you
I
so much.
missed on earlier occasion, first and second. So today I was very much eager to join. I joined a minute earlier, as you are aware.
Yes. Thank
So
you so
I would
much.
request you to spare the PPTs of earlier too and today's also.
Absolutely. I'll request the NPTEL team to coordinate and get the same done.
The topics covered are very, very interesting and wonderful.
Thank you so much for the feedback. We'll keep the same in mind. So can we have a smile from everyone? Thank you, everyone. We wish you all the very best for your exams. In case there are any doubts, you can reach out to us. Our email IDs would be with you. So that is something that all of you are aware of. So yes, with this, thank you for being a part of this course on behalf of Professor Sairam, CERA National Law School, and of course, the entire NPTEL team and IIT Madras, who have been so supportive and absolutely thrilled to host us. So a big thank you to them as well. Yes, Harshit. Yes, Harshit. Okay, there's a question. I'll answer it in the chat box. Yeah, so that's also done. So I hope we can conclude the session. Thank you everyone for being here, and we'll see you in any other course or workshop that we take up. Also, before you all leave, there is a recent workshop that we are coming up with. Could you just be there for about 1 more minute? Anyone who is interested, you can be a part of this particular workshop. It is quite interesting because this is on critical mineral resources in India and abroad. So there'll be speakers from India and abroad as well. So if we can have your presence, and if at all you are interested, please join us in this course as well. All the details are mentioned in this particular link. So whoever is interested can join us and can go about the course details, who are the resource persons, who are the speakers, and be a part of this particular workshop. So thank you, everyone, and look forward to seeing you in some other venture of ours. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Harshit, about the exam, so all of it is already there. So we generally don't talk about the exams in our live sessions. In case there is anything, you can write an email to us. So if you face any difficulty, good luck. Thank you so much.